Hello Star Wars fans, and welcome to episode 43 of Journey into Legends. Today we're going to be reading X-Wing Iron Fist by Aaron Alston. X-Wing Iron Fist was released in 1998, and it is the 6th book in the series. I'm really excited to jump into this one. As you may know, if you've seen my last video, I really enjoyed the first Wraiths Squadron book, and this one is generally considered as the best of the trilogy, and in my opinion, it's got the coolest cover of the three. So without further ado, let's read and review. Alright, so a major aspect of this book's story is Wraith Squadron once again going undercover, this time as a group of pirates called the Hawkbats, and I really enjoyed this storyline. There was some really great humor here with them in disguise, and I liked that Zsinj never really caught on to Wraith Squadron's schemes. One complaint I do have is that about the first third of this book has the same problem that the previous book had, which was that the plot kind of dragged on a bit due to the Wraiths bouncing from mission to mission. But unlike the first Wraith Squadron book, that problem didn't last long here. Definitely my favorite aspect of this book is the character development that we get from characters like Phanan and Face Lauren. As I said in my previous video, the cast of characters that Alston created in this trilogy is fantastic, but this book just takes that to a whole new level. First, let's talk about a few of the new additions to the squadron. We have Dia Pasic, who goes through some great development throughout this book. We also have Gara Patothel, under the alias of Lara Notzel, who had such a great arc in this book. It was great to see her go undercover in Wraith Squadron, but what made her character so fascinating was her multiple roles started to blend together, and she begins to question who she is and what exactly is her place in the galaxy. The last new character I want to talk about is Castan Dawn. Now at first, Castan Dawn was an extremely aggravating character. He had no respect for his superiors, he would constantly question Wedge's strategies even in a public setting, and he even went against his orders and snuck aboard the Iron Fist during an extremely sensitive operation. He also displayed xenophobia against the aliens in Wraith Squadron. Overall, he was just such an annoying character, but there is a point in this book where all of that changed, and I actually started to like his character. During the aforementioned operation on the Iron Fist, which I'll go into detail a bit more, he comes across a secret level where aliens are basically being experimented on. And while at first he shrugs it off and doesn't think much of it because they're aliens, he eventually comes back to save Atolls being operated on and basically dies for it. While he's not completely redeemed, I did end up liking his character right before his untimely death. Alright, so there is a specific part in this book that won me over completely and made me fall in love with it. Basically, a few of the Wraiths are on board the Iron Fist disguised as pirates meeting with Warlord Zsinj when Castan Dawn, who snuck onto the Iron Fist as a stowaway, is captured by stormtroopers and dragged into the ongoing meeting between Zsinj and the disguised Wraiths. And what follows just absolutely blew my mind. Basically, Zsinj wants Face to kill Dawn to prove his loyalty. Face manages to avoid having to kill Dawn and gives the gun to Dia, who just straight up shoots Dawn right in the throat without a second thought. And let me tell you, I had to put the book down for a second because I was just so blindsided by what I was reading. It ended up that Dawn was already dead and Dia knew this, but the scene was still just so tense and shocking. But despite that, there is still one scene that tops it. Alright, so this book, with all of its twists and turns, has probably the saddest and best written death scene that I've read in the EU thus far, and that is the death of Phanan. Now, I'm all for a character sacrificing himself in a huge blaze of glory and becoming a hero, but Phanan's death was just so damn intimate and realistic, and it was an absolute gut punch. Both Ton and Face, and especially their relationship, got so much development in this book, so their trek through the forest was so stressful from the get-go, but man, Ton's death scene was such a beautifully written scene, and definitely my favorite scene from the whole book. Alright, so my only major issue with this book is only really a nitpick, and that is that some of my favorite characters from the first book sort of took a back seat in this one, such as Kel Tainer and Min Donos. Now, it's really weird in Kel's case because in the first book, he was kind of the protagonist, but now he's been replaced by Face in this one. And in Min's case, I really loved his arc in the last book, so I was disappointed to see him take a back seat here. And I think the bottom line for me is that while I thought the first book went on way too long, this book actually could have benefited from being a bit longer. I loved the focus that Alston put on Face and Ton and Lara, but characters like Kel, Min, and Tyria didn't really have much to do, which was disappointing. Other than that, however, this book was amazing. So overall, this was easily my favorite X-Wing book so far, and one of my favorite EU books yet. Other than the minor issues I had with it, the book was just so entertaining from start to finish, and the characters were absolutely fantastic, and it had some of my favorite all-time EU moments. Anyways, I'm going to give this book a 95%, putting it above all the other X-Wing books, and making it the first book to reach the heights of the Thrawn trilogy. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for my next review where I'll be concluding the Wraith Squadron trilogy with X-Wing Book 7, Solo Command. See ya.